Here's a quick overview for the DC1 drum computer from Sound Machines. In this part, we will look at the basics, the input and output jacks, the LED matrix, the buttons, the two encoders and the hardware on the back of the module. It is a 20 HP module, compatible with the Dopefare modular system. It needs a 60 mA on both plus and minus volt line to work properly. First, let's look at the back of the module. To be sure everything is connected properly, the red stripe of the ribbon cable should be positioned on the right. It is also clearly identified on the PCB panel where the minus 12 volts is located. Let's look at the other pin connectors. You can switch the position of this jumper to select between 5 volt or 12 volt gates output. By default, the DC1 drum computer should be set with 5 volt gates. On the side of the module is a small USB and a mini SD card connector for more storage and to load new firmware into your DC1 drum computer. Let's look at the front panel. On top there's the LED matrix display. It shows at first glance the pattern and the active steps, and the user can easily insert hits via two encoders. The display is also used for the configuration of the module by clearly identifying functions and values in a textual way. By turning or pushing the two encoders, you can edit the sequence, use it for menu navigation, to access modes and confirm parameters. Pushing the left encoder will access the menu screen, and pushing the right encoder will confirm gate or a specific setting. To start composing a sequence, press the right encoder to drop a step. Now let's skip directly to the manual switch. This switch will select whenever the clock is internal or external. Some menu and functions will behave differently if you use your DC1 drum computer as the main clock or if you clock it externally. Switch on the left is external and switch on the right is internal. Note that if the switch is set to external gate at startup, the LED matrix will not welcome you with the presentation screen. Set the switch to the right and see the animation when the module gets powered on. It's always nice to see this welcome message, don't you think? Now it's time to check out those input and output jacks. The lower row of jacks are pretty simple to remember as they are all gate outputs from 1 to 8, corresponding to the first row to the bottom one. The clock and jack input. When the switch is positioned on the left, the DC1 drum computer can be clocked externally. This clock and jack accept 5 volt signal, and with relevant menu functions, different clock divisions are available for your needs. The clock out and reset jack. This is the only jack of your DC1 drum computer that can be used both as input or output. If the switch is positioned on the left for external clock in, this jack will be a reset input. When a high gate signal is received, it resets the sequence to step 1. But if the switch is on the right, the DC1 will be clocked internally, and this jack will be used as an output to sync the rest of your patch or to other equipment. Note that the clock out takes gate length and shuffle in consideration. The start and stop jack input is only used with external clock. When a gate is detected, the sequence will stop and stay still until another gate gives the signal to start where it was. The CVA2-CVD input jacks are used to assign configurable functions. Those inputs accept signals from 0 to 5 volts. This is wonderful, but it's just a blank sequence. Let's create a quick drum pattern, shall we? Now let's take a look at those little red buttons. The play button. This button starts the sequencer and, if pressed again, it pauses the sequence. When the sequencer enters the pause state, a pause symbol is shown briefly. When pressed again, the sequence starts from the next active step, the stop button. This button stops the sequence and resets the step to the first for all the 8 tracks. In song mode, the stop button will rewind the song to the first step of the first pattern. The load button. When pressed, the display will show the potential location for loading a pattern from the internal memory or on the mini SD card on the back of the module. The user will select, with the right encoder, the desired location, and by pressing the encoder will load it into its memory bank, and will be ready to start. The Store button. Just like the load function, the user is prompted with a graphical display of the possible locations where to save the present pattern. When selected with the right encoder, by pressing it, the sequence is saved, and the LED matrix will confirm the operation if successful. The memory of the DC1 drum computer is organized in 64 cells, each of which contains a sequence, with all of its parameters. When you load a sequence from memory to play it, the DC1 loads its tracks, and some parameters like the sequence speed and tempo, the individual track's length, the gate length, the shuffle, and the 4 CV bound functions. The Tempo button. When pressed, the right encoder selects an integer BPM value between 8 and 254 BPM. To confirm, press the encoder, or wait 5 seconds to return to the original tempo. The Length button. When pressed, the display shows all lit dots on each row. With the two encoders, the user will select the length for each tracks, and confirm it by pushing the right encoder. No track could be longer than this global length value. This function can be very interesting to create random and chaotic patterns. If a gate signal is sent to the reset input, each tracks will play at the beginning of the pattern, but be aware that the reset function is only available when the DC1 runs in external clock mode. The Global Length button. When pressed, the user selects the length of the sequence. The values of this parameter can range from its default 16 all down to 1. Confirm the desired global length with the right encoder. The Shuffle button. When the user presses this button, a shuffle or swing percentage is shown on the display from 50 to 100. To confirm, press the right encoder. Note that when external clock is chosen, shuffle is not enabled. The ABCD buttons. Those are the buttons used to assign a specific parameter combined with incoming CV to the corresponding input. When pushed, a parameter is shown by rotating the right encoder and confirmed with the push of the encoder. We will go deeper into this mode in the part 2 of this tutorial. Stay tuned for the next part of this tutorial. We will go over the menu functions and the CV control features. We just go over the very basics of this monster sequencer. But you'll see there's a lot more crazy things we can achieve.